Hi friends, before we start this episode, I just wanted to let you know that here in From Someone Who Gets It, we have raw, vulnerable conversations, and sometimes those conversations can trigger others. I want to let you know that in this season, we touch on suicide, infertility, PTSD, and everything in between. So if those are some subjects that are triggering to you, I just want to let you know that you're heard and you're seen and you're not alone. This podcast is for you, and I hope you join us. Hi everyone, welcome to From Someone Who Gets It, a podcast about life, mental health, and everything in between. I'm your host, Marcela Paguaga, and this season I'll be sitting down with some of my favorite people having raw, vulnerable conversations about goals, dreams, life, and mental health. Every Monday you can find our episodes on the Cultura Talks channel, and I hope you join in. Hi friends, before we start this episode, I just wanted to let you know that here in From Someone Who Gets It, we have raw, vulnerable conversations, and sometimes those conversations can trigger others. I want to let you know that in this season, we touch on suicide, infertility, PTSD, and everything in between. So if those are some subjects that are triggering to you, I just want to let you know that you're heard and you're seen and you're not alone. This podcast is for you, and I hope you join us. Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of From Someone Who Gets It. I am your host, Marcela Paguaga. Today, I am sitting down with a dear friend of mine who actually reached out to me because she wanted to share her story, and I was so excited to sit down with her and listen. Today, we are sitting down with Amber Paige. Amber, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. I'm not to put you in the spot, but you sent me a message.
I did.
And you were like, yo girl, you still have your pod going? And I it's funny because you sent me when we were like on our like hiatus, like little break. And I was like now gonna start reaching out for guests. And when you sent me a message, I was like, great, you'll be one of my guests for season 2.
Perfect timing.
First, I want people, because we know each other and I know you, and we've known each other. We met through work.
Yeah.
And then became friends. And when you reached out to me and you sent me the message, and we'll get into that. One of the first thing I told you when you came here was I would have never, ever, ever looked at you and your Instagram and thought that you were someone who was dealing with mental health.
Yeah.
So when you send me that message, there was no hesitation of like, yeah, I want you to come on and I want you to share your story, because this is what this pod is for. It's for people to come on and share stories that they feel will help others. And
right.
I think that's why you're here today, and I'm really excited. So let's dive in a little bit to like who you are, and is mental health something that you've always kind of had to deal with, or is it something that last year was the first?
No, so I've dealt with mental health.
Okay.
I would say high school was the first time I kind of like experienced it, but times have changed drastically since then. And the mental health conversation is definitely a lot more present in the day to day. And I think also like when you're a teen, it's like you're going through hormones and like life things, and you know, everything is like the world is ending.
Yeah.
So you can't really differentiate and you don't really know. And I also, something that my therapist told me is like, you have essentially like high functioning anxiety and depression. So the caveat to that is that you can, like you said, like you can look amazing, and it's almost a blessing and a curse because you can disguise it so well, and you know how to function despite dealing with that. But then on the flip side, people see you and they're like, oh, but you're fine. And I'm like, no, but like, I'm not fine.
Yeah.
You know? So I think I had like my first severe, I would say like panic attack meltdown when I was in high school. But again, just was like, whatever, like life is just, I'm going through it. I'm having a moment, like brush it off, whatever. And I had my first encounter with medication.
Okay.
When I was around 18 years old. But because again of like the stigma and everything, I think I took it for like 2 days, and I was like, no.
I don't need this.
Yeah, I can't. Like, I can't. This is like, I'm not crazy.
Right.
I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
I can't be on this. You know what I mean? And never kind of like dabbled into that again. And I've always been big into like working out. So I was like, I'm a big personal development, reading, taking care of your body, taking care of yourself, like doing all the things that you could possibly do to keep you mentally and physically well.
Right.
And I think going through what I went through last year was one of the first times where I'm like, it's not enough. Like, I do all the things.
Mm-hmm.
I do therapy. I work out every day.
Mm-hmm.
I eat healthy for the most part. I associate with people. I talk to friends. I have a good job. Like going down the list, that you're like, people look at you and they're like, but what do you mean you're depressed? But what do you mean you're unhappy? But what do you mean? And it's like, you even like, I caught myself sometimes being frustrated with myself because I would just sit there and be like, why? Like, because you know what? They're right. Like, why? Like, I would look, but the weirdest thing is that it's one of those things where if you've never been through it, you really don't understand, because I just had this feeling of like, I felt like I was just existing in the world.
Yeah.
I didn't have purpose. I didn't have meaning. I was just waking up, opening my eyes because that's what I had to do, going through the motions, taking a shower if I got around to doing that, getting back in bed, waking up the next day, to the point where I would just lay in bed sometimes and be like, what is the point of all this? Like, what's the point of life? What's the point of... And
even looking at yourself and you're just like, who is this like, I would even, sometimes I would like tell myself, did I like jump timelines? Like, I don't feel like I belong in this realm. Like, what is going on?
Yeah. It's almost like a loss of like, I don't even know how to put it into words, but it was just like, I just felt like I was going, like the best way that I can explain it is that I tell people all the time, I'm like, I made it through last year just existing. Like I was just floating, coasting. You would have seen me. And I mean, again, like we don't see each other on the day to day, but you would have seen me, and I lost, I think maybe like 30 pounds. I was barely eating. I was just like, I couldn't function. I was functioning out of pure habit, out of pure routine, because I'm a routine oriented person. So I was just putting one foot in front of the other. And I think on the flip side, one of the biggest things you can do for yourself when you're going through that is put one foot in front of the other.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And just keep moving. But sometimes it does become so debilitating.
And I think what happens is, and this is going to sound like morbid, but I don't mean it to sound like that. It takes a lot of energy to survive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So even the smallest things, again, I know it's going to sound gross, but like the smallest thing of like, I have to go brush my teeth. That energy to get up, go, do the whole thing takes so much energy when you're really trying just to survive and get through the day.
Every task feels like just, if you can, I remember my grandma told me, she was like, as long as you wake up in the morning, you're doing fine.
Right.
And me, that like, I think also what's hard and what I experience is that I'm a very like mentally tough, mentally strong. I'm the oldest of 4 siblings. I'm the doer. I'm the fixer. I'm the, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm on top of my stuff. My whole life growing up, it's like, oh my God, like don't worry. Like she's got it. She's got it. So then when you're the one that is now can't keep it together, everyone is like in panic mode because they're like, wait a minute. She's the one that always has it together and she's not okay. So we have a problem. You know what I mean? And it was hard because I'm like, Amber, like you need to get it together. Like you need to get a grip. You need to whatever. So part of me wanted to like be hard on myself and tell myself like get up, you know, whatever. And I think that there is a part of mental health where I will say, I kind of like say things the way they are. I think that there does come a point where you do need to say enough is enough.
100%.
And I need to, you know, you cannot help someone that doesn't want to be helped. And I say that all the time. People that I've spoken to that have dealt with things, I'm like, you give yourself the time that you need to sulk in it. You give yourself the time that you need to feel the things, to do whatever you need to do. And when you're done, you get up and you put one foot in front of the other and you move. Yeah. And once it's crazy because I remember being in such a low point and people would tell me all this quote unquote of Rome wasn't built in a day, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. Like I remember just being so agitated with like, because it is such cliche advice, but it's true. It's true. That's the crazy part, that like you don't see it until you get to the other side and then you look back and you're like, wow.
Eddie was really going through it the last couple months of the year. I really think it's the holidays.
Yeah.
He lost his dad in March, 2 years now in March. So I think the holidays bring out when you're grieving even more. And he's not used to feeling the depression or the anxiety and stuff. So when he's in that state, he's very like panicky of like, why am I feeling like this? Why am I like this? Why am I like this? And I remember one day was like really, really bad. And I looked at him and I said, I've dealt with this pretty much my whole life. And if there's one thing that I've learned from all of this is that the only person who can pull you out of the depressive state that you are in is yourself. And it's hard to say because there's some depressive states that you're just like, I can't, it's like quicksand, like you can't come out of it.
You're
like
sinking.
No matter how hard you try. And it's like you said, you give yourself grace for those moments.
Right.
But when it comes to the point that no one else can help you, like I looked at him and I said, I wish I can take this from you and I can take this feeling, but I need you to look at yourself and be like, hey, I can do this. I can pull myself out of it. I acknowledge that I feel this way. I'm not like shoving it under like a rug and like, no, I acknowledge I'm feeling this. I acknowledge that I'm feeling depressed, that I'm going through this weird grieving period again, because when you grieve, grief is something you live with your entire life. And it comes in different waves. And I think him listening to me say that to him, he was like, oh shit. Okay, I gotta, and he was able to come out of it, but it's hard.
Yeah, I think people definitely underestimate the amount of strength that it takes to pull yourself out of being in a place like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think to your point, part of it is like you almost have to realize like no one is coming to save you.
No.
And I think subconsciously we expect the people around us to help us and save us, and I'm drowning and pick me up and hold me and be there, and they can to some capacity. But I think what you also learn going through those moments is they can only be there to a certain extent.
Right.
They can support you. Mm-hmm. They cannot heal you.
No.
They can support you. They cannot fix you. Mm-mm. They can't, like, there's nothing that they can do for you that is going to make you stop feeling that way. They can be present, but that doesn't take away the way that you're feeling. And I think that the strongest people sometimes, I feel like I consider myself a very mentally strong person. The strongest people will tell you all the time, like, you know, like, building your strength and adversity and all that stuff. But I think that our strength really transpires in our lowest and weakest moments.
Oh my God, 100%.
In those, I think that had I not been someone that I listen to so many podcasts and I'm, you know, I read so many personal development books and I work out and all these things, and, you know, for everybody it's different, of course. But I think had I not spent the majority of my life doing all those things, it would have been so much worse for me when I fell into the place that I was in. Right. Because I knew the things and I would sit there and I'm like, Amber, I know what I need to do. I know exactly, like, I know what they say, textbook, like, you know. Yeah. But I was like, I don't care. Like, I just didn't care. I was like, I know exactly what to do, but I just don't care. Yeah. You know, like, I don't, at least not in the moment. Right. Not in that moment.
Not,
you know?
Not enough to, like, think about, okay, what will the next step be? And again, it goes back into and I remember talking to my therapist about this once of like, why is it when my brain gets super overwhelmed, the first thing it thinks about is, okay, it's done. How do I escape? And I mean, I talked about it on the first pod. We'll get into it now. Suicidal thoughts and suicidal, you know, I think when people hear the word suicide, it's, I mean, especially in the Latin culture, it's like, oh, that's the easy way out. Oh, you decided, what a coward. Like, right. And it's not until you're in the position, me was 2016, when you have those thoughts, the reason you're having those thoughts is because there's no way out. Right. And you think, okay, well, maybe if I can, for me, it wasn't of, I wanted to die. For me, it was just like I needed a break.
Well,
like
it's funny that you mentioned that because my therapist actually explained to me, because she had asked me when I first started going, you know, do you have suicidal thoughts? And the same thing, like when she said the word suicide, I'm gonna get Baker acted.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like immediate panic. Like, I'm not crazy. I don't need to go to a mental hospital.
Right.
So I think she saw my face and was like, you know, so I came out and I was like, you know, I don't want to say suicidal thoughts. It's just more like, I just don't want to be here right now. And she explained that there's a difference between having suicidal thoughts and suicidal ideations. So she's like, what you're experiencing is more so that you associate, and again, like you said, it sounds very morbid, but like you almost associate the idea of death with peace.
right.
So you're like, my brain will finally stop.
Right.
Nothing, I'll stop thinking.
Right.
I'll stop, you know, that feeling of your brain just going and going and going and going that you cannot, like, it doesn't matter how hard you try, you can't stop it.
Stop it.
It's going to stop because there's going to be nothingness.
That-
and she goes, that is what you're feeling.
Right.
But that doesn't mean, like you said, that doesn't mean that you want to die or not
Right.
be here. It just means that you're so overwhelmed with, sometimes your brain, like I say, my brain moves faster than my body, than
100%.
anything. You know what I mean? Like I can't keep up with myself. I tell people all the time, I'm like, I don't think anyone would want to live a day in my head.
No, that's Eddie. Sometimes I'll like be looking away and Eddie's like, what are you thinking about? And I'm like, that's such a hard question because like in the last 3 seconds, my brain opened 85 different files.
Yeah.
Like it's okay. I don't really like, so I've been on a bunch of different medications, but there's a medication recently that I got on for ADHD that makes my brain quiet, but in a way of like I can still think about stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You
Like,
don't feel like a zombie.
I don't feel like a zombie, which a lot of medications did that to me. But it's like I realized taking that medication, oh, it's not that I'm overwhelmed, it's that my brain doesn't stop. And that's what gets overwhelming. And when I look back at 2016, Marcela, and like I had plans and everything. I had 2 different plans, but there were plans that wasn't to kill me. It was just to like hurt me. So I'm in a hospital so that I'm like left alone and
separated.
There's like peace and I don't have to deal with the outside world. That was like my whole like thing. So I'm like happy that you said that because that was my biggest thing. I needed to shut my brain off.
Right.
What happened last year that made you think, oh shit, no, I need to get on medication. I need to talk to someone. I need to take full control because now I'm scared.
Yeah. I think having those quote unquote, and again, I say it with such, because it's almost like ingrained into your brain, that kind of like skepticism around the whole situation. But when I started to feel like I just don't want to be here, I was like, okay, like this is not me. And again, like if you know me, but you know, for those that don't know me, I love to be around people. I have high energy. I'm very just like all over the place. And I like that about myself. And I feel like I was a shell of myself. Like genuinely, I was, like I said, existing. Like you saw me, I didn't have deseo to do anything. I didn't care about anything. Nothing. It got to the point that my anxiety was so bad that throughout some work days, I had to dunk my face into a bowl of ice water because I was typing and my hands were shaking. And I was so anxious and so like I couldn't stop. And I was like, I need to work. I need to function. Like I cannot. This is becoming too much.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like having to stop in the middle of your workday to dunk your face in a bowl of ice water to me was like, okay.
Yeah.
This is, you know what I mean? Like now we're at a point, and I say that because I'm not the type of person that I think, especially saying this publicly, something that people are going to listen to. I think you need to go through several things before you hit medication.
Oh, yeah.
I had been going to therapy. It wasn't my first rodeo with therapy.
Okay.
But I had been doing therapy for a few months, meditating, journaling, all the things that you read in every self-help book, all the things that the therapists tell you. I had done everything. So when I got to the point that I was like, maybe I should start considering medication, it was because I was like, I've checked all the boxes.
Yeah.
I've done all the things. I've researched. I've gone to my resources. I've done everything I could possibly. I didn't just scapegoat and say, okay, put me on a pill.
And I think that everyone's different.
Right.
Because I had Betty Batelito on and we were talking about that. And she's like, I did everything. I meditated. I did everything. And I was like, okay, I need help. I need the medication. And I think everyone's different, but I was against medication for a very long time because I was like, no, I'm okay. I'll be fine. No, I'll be fine. It's just like, I'm just going through it. Like, I'll be fine.
I need to work out more. I need to do this more.
And then in 2016, what happened was because I wasn't fine. And we talked about it a little bit in the beginning of like masking, having the high functioning, like anxiety and depression. And I'm telling you, when I went to the unit and people started finding out that I went to the unit for a week, the psych unit, and then from there was transferred to an eating disorder like a rehab for eating disorders. And when people found out that was happening, everyone was like, wait, what are you talking about? You had a fashion blog, you had this, like your act, like it was like you look so happy. And it was like, oh, I look so happy because I was able to like fake it. I faked it. You would have never known there was anything wrong with me. So when I went to the unit and then they put I was like on like 6 different medications because they're trying to figure out what cocktails work, what doesn't. I was, Amber, when I tell you a zombie, like my sisters tell me the story of like they came to visit me that first night at the unit and like they were talking to me and they were like, Marcela, it's like your eyes were like glass, like you couldn't do it. So for the longest time, I thought to myself, oh, medication just makes me a zombie. And I took it for a while because I had to, like there was no choice. And then I got off of it and I swore that I would never, ever, ever touch medication again. And then a couple years ago, my brain chemistry there was nothing I could do at that point. I was just like, okay, it's a lot. It's a lot. And my brain needs a little help. And that is okay.
Yeah.
Like it is okay that I need to drink a little pill in the morning. Like just like if you're diabetic and you need to check your insulin and you like all of that. Like I taught myself of like, hey, this is part of your mental health is just as important as your physical health.
Right.
And if you had to take a pill every morning for your blood pressure, that kind of equals to that. And maybe you don't have to be on that pill for the rest of your life for blood pressure, but at this season, that's what you have to do. And I think after I said that to myself, I was a little easier on like, okay, take a medication. And if this medication makes you happier, good.
Yeah.
And then get off of it once you feel like I'm okay, I'm stable.
I think something too that my psychiatrist explained to me was, when I did my check-in, I've been on medication now consistently for like, hasn't been too long. I would say maybe like 4 months.
Okay.
And when I did my first check-in with her, or second, I would say probably second, that I was like, wow, I feel, so much better.
Yeah.
And she asked me like, outside of the medication, what are you doing in your day-to-day? What has changed? And I gave her this list of things and she's like, well, good, because the medication is just there as like a little boost.
Correct.
But again, it's like anything. If you're not helping yourself, medication included, you can be on medication. But if you think that you're going to just lay in the pitch black dark and be medicated and everything is going to miraculously turn around for you, it's not. No. This is just going to give you the push. To me, the way that I view the medication is that, like you said, it's going to shut my brain up. It's going to calm me down to a point where I can get back into my routine. I can thrive. I almost feel myself thriving more because I'm not so anxious.
Yeah.
And I would say that for me, the depression was a result of the anxiety instead of the other way around.
Yes.
I was so anxious to the point that I couldn't control it. And then it just became a depression. And I also want to note that I think for a lot of people, I think there's a big difference also between being depressed and being discontent with your life.
Right. And I think, and you said something about like getting frustrated with yourself.
Right.
Because I would find that I was like, okay, you're living the life that you prayed for a couple years ago. So I would get angry because I was like, what do you have to be depressed about?
Right.
You know, what are you anxious about right now? Like, you're anxious about the things that you can't control that are coming. That's what you're anxious about. But if you're living in the moment, but then again, my mental health is like, okay, bitch, tell me all the shit you want. I'm gonna still.
Yeah.
And I think the depression is not because like I'm depressed with my life.
Right.
It was like I was depressed because my anxiety was so high and like I had to disconnect from friends and I didn't want to go out, or I would go out and because I was so anxious, I was literally like a shell of myself. So I would go out to events and I'm literally the person like in the corner like, please don't come and talk to me today because my anxiety is so high that I'm not going to be able to have a conversation with you. So I think that's where my depression stemmed from.
Right.
Was I missed the girl who I was.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember my mom telling me once, she was like, you, like, I just, like, almost something to the effect of, like, that she didn't recognize me.
Yeah.
That she was just like, you know, I'm the type, like, I get ready every day. I always like to wear a cute outfit, even if it's a simple outfit, something cute. You know what I mean? Things like that. And I just didn't care. And she was like, it's visible that, like, you're kind of just, like, again, existing. You're just there, but you're not there.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you're physically there, but emotionally you're not there. And I just didn't have the capacity to deal with, to talk to like, I was like, I only have it in me to wake up in the morning
and survive,
work,
yeah,
because I need to have a job,
yep,
and then finish working and then go to sleep and then do it tomorrow. Yeah. That's it. I don't have it in me to do anything. And I went a period, I would say like maybe like 2-3 months where like I didn't work out, I didn't do all these things, and again, it's like such a catch-22 because it's like you don't have the energy, but then these things also help you. So that's where I say you give yourself the grace to go through those things, right, and then you're like, okay, that's it.
Yep.
It is what it is. It is what it is, but like I'm getting the necessary help. I'm doing the things. I need to put one foot in front of the other and move. I need to, you know, and I feel since I picked up that momentum, it's just been smooth sailing since then.
It's something that happens to me when I get into that thing of like, I don't recognize myself and all that. And then I slowly start coming out of it and I start recognizing, like I start feeling like myself again. Do you, because it happens to me, do you find that you get a little nervous that you're going to lose her again? Because it took me, listen, and I know it's going to sound crazy, but COVID did something that whole year that I don't know if it's because in 2019, I felt like I was at
your peak,
such a peak that COVID hit and it really knocked me out. COVID brought a lot of good things. Eddie's and I relationship, I think because of COVID and because we spent every day together, that's what flourished. But at the same time, something happened to me and it took me a second, and I was talking to a friend. I just feel like I'm getting Marcela back now.
Like, I think a lot of it, believe it or not associated with COVID, but I mean, kind of is in a way. When I was at my worst last year, I also work remotely from home. So I noticed that on top of everything, I was like, I want to disassociate from people because I'm doing so bad.
Right.
I work from home, so I don't have a reason to go to an office.
Right.
Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I was home 24/7. I didn't talk to people unless I had to.
Right.
I didn't, at work, it was like Zoom calls. And I was like, 1, 2, 3, what do you need from me? Hang up. That's it. So I think coming out of it now, I'm a fitness instructor. I deal with people. I leave my house in the mornings and evenings to teach. I go to workout classes. I do all these things. And when I was talking to my psychiatrist, I was like, I feel that has been monumental for me. Yeah. In these last couple months, because despite wanting to disassociate and not be around people, being around people now makes me feel like I'm thriving. Yeah. Like I go to teach and talking to people and seeing people. I just like, it's like, it sounds not ridiculous, but it's like, I feel like alive. Like I feel like I'm like, people are breathing life into me. I'm breathing life into people. So I think to your point of COVID, it's that we as a society have gotten so accustomed to just being alone.
Yep.
Oh, I don't need friends. Oh, I don't need this. You know, people are like, you don't need anybody. You don't need, but you do.
Oh my God,
You
100%.
need people.
Yeah.
You need community. You need to get out. You need to experience things. You know what I mean? Like, that is what living is all about. And I think when we lose that, we start to lose ourselves and we start to disassociate. And then we're like, what's going on? What's wrong with me? And then you kind of like re-enter again when you're ready and you're like, oh my God.
And I think for me, when I feel like I'm in a depressive state or just my energy is not good, I think I really isolate, because my whole thing was like, I don't want to bring anybody else into like my thing. And thank God I have friends who are very like, when they see that I'm MIA, they already know okay, she's going through it, she'll like come back. Because I can't imagine having friends who like take it personal that I cancel on them or that I can't like do it, which I try not to do anymore, because I learned that the more I am out of the house, or the more I have a routine, or the more, even if it's overwhelming and I'm super like busy and like I'm like, fuck, I need a second, for my mental health, it's so much better. And that's when my mom knows when my mental health is like not good, because she's like, oh, you're home a lot. Like,
yeah, you're very quiet.
And I'm not. Like, I was always someone, I was always on the street. I always had something. I always wanted to be in todo. But it was just like.
But I do think another thing, since you've also dealt with anxiety and all those things, I think us jam-packing our days and being like, I have a million things. I remember I'm so busy. I have things to do. I don't have any time to breathe. I don't have any time. And I saw it as a good thing.
Yeah. No.
Whereas now looking back, again, it's not the defense mechanism is not the word I'm looking for. It's almost like a distraction.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, if I can keep myself as busy as possible, it leaves very limited time for me to think about how I actually feel.
Right.
So I feel like now I've really tried to find the balance between, I mean, like I said, like I work a full-time job. I'm a fitness instructor. I'm all over the place.
Right.
And I'm up at 6 a.m. and I go to bed. Like, I do a lot. But I also, in going through that, I've made it a point to learn that every extreme is bad. And that there are times to be super busy, and there are times to be, okay, you're on the grind, you're pushing, you're doing these things. And then there are times that, okay, my body needs a break, my brain needs a break, I need a rest. If I need to say no to plans, that's okay. If I need to, oh, there's a party on a Saturday, but you know what? I need this Saturday to just declutter my brain and relax.
Yeah.
That's okay. And I think that finding that balance and learning learning what that balance is to me, because like you said, everybody's different. It looks different for everyone. Learning what that balance looks like for me has also made a huge difference, because I'm like, okay, I'm busy, but I'm not just busy for the sake of being busy. You know what I mean? I have things to do. And it almost taught me to, in my free time, what are things that I can do that I'm not just rotting watching TV, that I'm not just trying to disassociate my brain, that I'm not just, you know what I mean? Like something practical that actually makes me feel good, even if it's still just resting, you know? And that has made a huge difference for me, because I think we also have this extreme in our society where it's like, you're either, you know, pro slow living and slow life, or you're on the grind and like hustle,
There's no
breaks.
happy medium.
Right. And I'm like, there is a happy medium though. Because why? I feel like when you post things about like, I'm on the grind and whatever, then you have the slow lifers that come out and they're like, oh, but you should live peaceful and you should. And then on the flip side, the people that are quote unquote on the grind are like, oh no, but I'm like, there's a time to be on the grind.
I agree.
And there's a time to slow down.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm at when I went through that, it was a time to slow down because I didn't have a choice. But I feel like I'm at a point in my life where this is a time for me to work hard.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to reap the reward later, and I'm going to slow down later. But that doesn't mean that in between, I'm not going to have moments of, okay, reel it in, take a break. You know what I mean?
Right.
That doesn't mean I'm not working hard. That doesn't mean, and I think as someone, and I know that we're very similar in that way.
Yeah.
As people that constantly want to, okay, but I want to up level and I want to do the next thing, and how can I be better and how can I improve and what project can I take on and whatever. And you know, like you want to do all these things, but if going through these things, and I'm sure you can relate, have taught us anything, it's that I'm good to nobody, not even myself in that state.
No.
So nothing that I want to accomplish is going to get accomplished if I feel like that.
Right.
It's just not.
Yeah.
There's just no way.
No. And it's
it's going back to finding who you really are and what works for you, right? Because there are weeks that I'm like, okay, I need to take a second. But then there's weeks that I find myself really doing a lot because I'm on this momentum and I can feel like I'm on this like I'm not manic, but every now and then I tell Eddie I'm like, I feel like I'm having like a manic episode because I feel good, I'm happy, I want to do everything, and I want to do it with this like energy,
right,
you know,
right.
and I want to bring everything in my life with this energy, but I've given grace to myself and told myself, okay, you're not always gonna feel like this. And that's okay. You can still do the things that you like to do. It's just have some grace that you're not gonna be as happy as maybe you were last week.
Right.
And that's fine. That doesn't make you a bad person. That doesn't make you like anything. I think having grace with yourself and finding out what works for you, because that's also another
100%. And it's like you said, and I stress it so much that everybody's different, and I get it because I feel like the minute you open the box of mental health, people are like, oh, but that doesn't work for me, and oh, but that, and again, I know we're gonna kind of transition into that now, but it kind of goes hand in hand with the social media conversation where I always preface, I'm like, just because this routine works for me doesn't mean it works for you.
Right.
Just because X medication works for me doesn't mean it's going to work for you. Like, we are all different, and we share our stories to give people examples, to show people like, I'm on the same journey, but I don't share it for you to say, oh, well, she does this, let me copy paste it.
Exactly.
Like, we are all different, and there's things that work for you that might not work for me. There's methods that work for me that might not work for you. And that's as long as you're functioning and healthy, it doesn't matter.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you just need to find the routine or the method or whatever it is that's going to keep you sane and healthy and happy to some extent. You know what I mean?
The cameras weren't rolling when you came in here, but I said to you, when you sent me that message, I would have never in my life would have thought that you were dealing with mental health. Yeah. Because I feel like, I mean, I love your content on TikTok and on Instagram, but you always seem so happy. You're working out. In textbook, let's say like textbook, she has the perfect life. She has the perfect body. She has the like, you know, everyone will look at your page or whatever page you look on Instagram and you assume all these things.
Right.
Did you hide it for a while on socials of like, oh, I can just fake it till I make it, fake it till I make it? You don't really talk about. You're starting to talk a little bit more about mental health, I feel like, on your socials, but it's not something you share a lot about.
I veer away from it, not because I don't want to talk about it, but I think, unfortunately, in the social media space, things get very misconstrued.
100%.
And I never, you know, I understand people that are like, well, it's my page, it's my opinion. And I get that, but I never want to make people feel judged or... You know, and at the end of the day, we don't want to be judged. I don't want to be judged.
Right.
And again, it's such a caveat because it's like, you know, you share transparently and you should want all those things. And it's like, yeah, but at the end of the day, like, unfortunately, there are people out there that don't understand. And there is a level of emotional intelligence that you need to be able to have these conversations and say, you know what, I might not agree with you. I know a lot of people that are like, like you said, like a lot of Hispanic people, depression, whatever. And you know what? It's okay to say, I don't entirely agree with her, but you know what? As long as you're happy and healthy, more power to you.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, not everybody has that emotional intelligence level. So I don't really overindulge in it, I would say. And I think when I was going through that, I just wasn't on social media at all. Like, there was a period where I deleted Instagram from my phone. I just didn't want to consume anything. I didn't even want to be in that space. And I think it's funny because, not funny, but I see, you know, people will overshare about mental health or whatever it might be. And then you read the comments and people are like, but this is personal and why are you sharing this? And then on the flip side, people are like, oh, but nobody talks about this. Nobody brings awareness. Nobody's honest and transparent. But then it's like, so do I share or do I not share? It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you share and then it's like, oh, but you should keep that private. Like that's your business. Don't come to social media with your negativity, blah,
Right.
blah, blah. But then it's like, oh, well, you're sharing your life, making it seem like, no, I'm not making it seem. It's just that this is my life.
Right.
Like this is my everyday life and I share it. And just because I'm not recording myself crying in the bathroom,
Right.
doesn't mean that, and it kind of baffles me sometimes when people are like, social media is a highlight reel. Like, yes, duh. Like it's common sense. Like people say that like as if like, oh, guys,
social
like,
media
don't
only
forget.
shows you the good things.
But like,
yeah, you sit there, you look at the picture and you say, actually, I look prettier in this picture than in this picture. This is the one I'm going to post. It is, or, oh, okay, and I think
my favorite though, sorry to interrupt you, is that then it's like people will record these like horrible things going on in their life. And people in the comments are like, why would you share this? Why would you post this? Why would you talk about this? Why would you, like, all these questions. So I'm like, I say it all the time. I'm like, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. And initially, I know I had told you over text when we were kind of coordinating.
Yeah.
I was a little bit nervous because I'm like, I don't really talk about this, not because I don't want to, because if somebody were to stop me on the street, I don't care to share and talk about it. But I'm like publicly putting it on a platform, all those things, because I'm like, it just opens that door. And I'm like, do I want to share? Do I want people to know? Do I want people to whatever? And I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm not ashamed of it.
Right.
And if I'm not ashamed of it, I should show that to people.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Like, I have these things, I deal with these things, and I'm still a functioning human.
Yeah.
And there's no shame in it. I wake up every day and my little alarm goes off to take my medication.
Right.
And I take my medication and I go about my day.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that's it. There's nothing wrong with that. And that was my biggest thing. And to be completely transparent with you, the reason that I reached out was because a few weeks ago, I was on social media, like going through stories, and I came across this one influencer's page, big influencer, like maybe like almost 1 million followers.
Okay.
And she shared this story, and she was holding a pill bottle, and the text on the story was her like talking about how she had been on medication for like 2-3 months, or her story, a little bit synopsis of it. And I remember stopping. I'm on social media so often, it's what I do for work and on the side as well. Very few things kind of like stop me in my tracks, I would say. And I remember stopping and being like, wow, like this is so refreshing. Like I take medication too.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, oh my God, like me too, you know? And it's like, again, this girl that like, I also don't assume that because people are influencers or because people are on social media, they have these perfect lives.
Right.
But I remember thinking like, she's just like me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, she functions and she works and and she wakes up in the morning, and the only thing that differentiates her between someone that doesn't is that she takes a pill.
Right.
That's it.
Yep.
There's literally no difference. You know what I mean? And realistically, like you said, it's like a lot of the times, more often than not, it's a literal chemical imbalance. Like it's science.
It's science.
You know what I mean? Like
it's like, and when you think of it that way, and you think of it like I said, if you have high blood pressure and you take a pill in the morning because it helps you, that is okay. No, social media, I think, like you said, it becomes a thing of like, I want to share my story because it'll help at least one person out there.
Right.
But then you're like, oh, do I want to put that out there? I remember Robbie, downstairs, he's one of our big guys here at Cultura Media House. He's the boss of the boss. Don't tell him I said that. Can we cut that out of this? I'm just kidding. Fuck, I lost my train of thought. Oh, he was my first guest on the episode. Mm-hmm. And he was like, okay, is there something that you don't want to talk about? And I was like, well, I don't know if I want to talk about me going into the psych unit. Only a certain amount of people know that story, because going into a psych unit,
right, like there's a level of embarrassment that I'm sure you feel around it. Like it is
I had this like, it wasn't even like embarrassment. It was just like, fuck, like I went to like
you see it in the movies.
Yeah,
but
like
that happened to me in real life.
That happened to me in real life. Like I was in a psych unit. So I think for me it was two things. It was like, unless you were like really close to me, there was no reason for me to share that with you. That was like part of like my history. I never have to like come back to it again. But the truth is, every February 16th, like my body has a reaction. I like the week before, like I'm very like, I don't think I'm a bitch. I'm just very like on edge, and I'm very like, because my body starts going through like this like
a trauma
weird,
response.
like this trauma thing. And, you know, when he's like, do you not want to talk about it? I was like, you know what? Let's talk about it. It's on the internet forever. People are going to know. And my story's out there. And if there's at least one person that was like, oh, that happened to me and I don't really talk about it, but now I can talk about it and it doesn't get like stored in you. Because for me, I felt like it was like, I never spoke about it. So it was always something that lived very heavy with me because I never would talk about it. And now that I'm just like, oh yeah, I went to a unit once. Like I say it now.
You go to work and they're like, so tell us a fun fact about yourself. Well, this one time
well,
I was
in 2016, I went to a psych unit.
like actually, I was admitted.
Like I was not for fun, like for real. But I think that now that I'm able to like talk about that, and February 16th is coming up, I'm not like, oh shit, February 16th is coming up. And like, now I'm just like, oh cool. Now I can tell people like, hey, I went to
and I think it's also though important that when you go through things, like it's a season in your life.
Yes.
So even now, it's funny because it's not that I don't want to talk about it in depth. It's just that, you know, like, I'm like, you know, it happened. It was a season in my life. I learned a lot through it. It sucked for many reasons. I went through it, but I'm out of that season of my life.
Yeah.
That season of my life does not define me.
Right.
That season of my life does not make me who I am. That was a period of time where I experienced some shitty things, and that's it. And it passed.
And I think people punish themselves a lot because of the seasons that they go through. I'm like, my God, for me, I used to do this. I don't do it anymore, but I used to do this thing of like, I gave myself a hard time of all the time that I wasted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I was super anxious and I was super depressed and I didn't start the project that I wanted to start. So for the next 2 months, I'm beating myself up of like.
But can I tell you that's something else that I learned going through this process is that a lot of the times the reason something may not work out or the reason something may, like you're saying, like, you know, in that time period I didn't do anything, but like you weren't the person you needed to be to do the thing.
100%.
You weren't.
And that's why I don't say that to myself anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I tell myself now, I'm like, nothing I would have done in that 6 to year long period would have been to my standards.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't the person I needed to be to accomplish that thing.
Exactly.
You know, so that's how I think that mindset shift has been a huge alleviator for me because I'm like, even if I was productive during that time, what good would I have produced? I wasn't thinking from a place of abundance.
Yeah.
I wasn't operating from a place of abundance. I was operating from lack, from sadness, from all these things. So what really would I have done in that time period that would have been exceptional?
Right.
Because I didn't feel exceptional.
Yeah, no.
So how would anything that I did or participated in have been exceptional?
Yeah.
You know?
No, that's what I tell myself now. Because I gave myself a really hard time with the podcast. Because I was like, I had been wanting to do it and wanting to do it and wanting to do it and wanting to do it. And then when everything aligned and I made a home here at Cultura Media House, I was like, oh, no, you couldn't have done it before. For multiple reasons. You weren't in the headspace. You weren't in the headspace to sit down and also hear other people's stories. Because I think when you're going through depression or anxiety or whatever mental health, also hearing others.
You're very easily triggered.
Yeah. It becomes hard. It becomes hard when you're in a space that you've accepted it and you've learned to live your life with it, not being like the main part of who you are, just knowing like, okay, I am anxious. I do have high functioning anxiety. I have high functioning depression, but I'm okay.
Right.
And the seasons that those need to come out a little more and my anxiety is a little high, I kind of just try to tell myself, okay.
But you've also learned how to cope.
Yeah.
And your coping mechanisms are also there where you...
And are healthier.
Yeah. And you catch yourself, like, you know the signs.
Yes.
And that's what my psychiatrist told me. She's like, you know the signs. So you immediately, like, you wake up in the morning and you feel even remotely off. Like, I remember there was a day where I woke up and I was like, and it was kind of like I was coming out of all this. And I woke up and I just like wasn't feeling my best. I was like, I need to touch grass.
Yep.
I was like, I need to go touch grass. I remember literally walking outside, sitting in, I was like, if somebody drove by, they're going to think that I'm like on drugs. They're going to be like, this girl's completely lost it. Like, we got to go knock on the door. Cause I'm there like crisscross applesauce outside in front of the house, literally with my hands in the grass. Yeah. And I'm just like taking deep breaths. And it seems so ridiculous, but I'm like, I felt it coming. And I was like, no. Like, I'm going to do the things. I'm going to go to my workout class today. Yeah. I'm going to do all these, you know, and then there is going to be days where you're like, you know what? Coping today is going to be sitting on the couch, watching TV, giving myself a rot day. And tomorrow I'm going to wake up and be better. Yeah. And that's okay. You know what I mean? And I think kind of tying it back into social media, because people assume, you know, but I see you posting your routines and you're this and you're whatever and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, you're right. Like, I do post all those things. That is my life. But the same way that you see my routine, like, I mean, I could record a rot day for you if you want. Like, right. I could put my phone there and just like, I mean, it's not going to be very entertaining, me sitting on the couch eating, you know, chips and watching TV. But I mean, if you want to see that, I can totally, you know, and I think that we share the parts of our life that we want to share. And if somebody feels comfortable sharing maybe, you know, more about their mental health or more about what's going on in their life or relationship things or whatever it is that they want to share, it's like, that's your space. And I think as long as you're doing it in a healthy way and in a positive way and not kind of like picking on anybody or making it seem like, you know, people see me and they're like, oh, you wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and, you know, how do you do a morning routine? I'm like, you need a morning. I'm pro morning routine. Right. But I'm pro a routine that works for your life. Yeah. I don't have any kids. Right. So I can wake up at the ass crack of dawn in the morning and go to a 6 a.m. Pilates class and come home and make myself, because that is my life. Right. I'm not saying that somebody with 2 kids and, you know, whatever else is going on in their life can have that same routine. But I am going to encourage you, make a routine that works for you.
No. And as much as you want to try to say that routines don't help, they do. And it doesn't have to, like you said, it doesn't have to be a routine of waking up and going to a work. It doesn't have to be that. Right. But I have realized that the days that I have my routine of like, okay, wake up, I'm going to go to a Pilates class. I'm going to do this. I have work. I need to, like, are the days that my mental health
is the best.
Yeah. And I feel good with myself. The days that I wake up and I let that little voice of like, I don't feel good today. Oh, okay. I used to let that voice be like, oh, you don't feel good today? Okay, let's just sit right here. We're done.
But I will tell you that example that you're giving right now is exactly where I will pull my quote unquote mental toughness, personal development, very David Goggins type energy. And I'm like, in those moments is where you have to say, I'm stronger than this. Yeah. No bullshit. And that's the moment where you have to say, I'm going to be tough on myself. Yep. And we're going to get up and we're going to go through the motions and we're going to get it done because that's what we have to do. Because nobody's coming to save me and you know what I mean? And those are the moments where you have to be tough with yourself and say, I'm going to stick to my routine. I'm going to stick to what I know because I know it makes me feel better. Yep. Because if you choose to just sit there and let yourself fall into that hole again, that's a choice that you're making. And at that point.
When it becomes the choice that you can make.
Right.
Because again, everyone's different and everyone deals with it differently. But when you can decide, okay, I can either get up today, get in my car and just drive, which I've also done of like, I don't feel good, but if I'm in the car and I'm driving and I'm at least out in the real world, the anxiety is going to come down and I'm going to be able to regulate it in a way that I'll deal with it. Yeah. If I stay home, turn the lights off, I'm in bed, I'm not doing anything.
You're just ruminating. It doesn't...
I'm not helping myself at all. And that took me a long time to get there and a long days of like, I would do that. Yeah. I would do weeks of like...
Because you think like people assume, okay, well, they associate giving yourself grace and giving yourself time to like decompress as like, it's okay to just sit in a pitch black room. Like, no, it's not. Like, that means scale it back, cancel your plans. You don't have to go work out today.
Right.
You don't have to, you know, take a mental health day from work.
Right.
That's what that means.
Exactly.
That doesn't mean this is a free pass for you to just sit in a dungeon all day. And again, last year I spent weeks.
And I think we could say it because we have been in the place of like weeks of laying in bed, not talking to anyone, not answering a message, a call, a nothing. Where did that lead me? Into a darker hole. And then what happens, and I don't know if this happens to you, but then I have to deal with the guilt that I feel coming out of that.
Yeah.
Abandoning friends, and not really seeing or talking to family. Like, and then I had to deal with that guilt of like, fuck, now I have to explain to everyone, you know? So I've found that happy medium of like, bitch, you got anxiety today? Like today I woke up and it's been a rough couple weeks for me. But I feel so good as like of who I am, like as a person at the moment. Like I feel good in my body. I feel good in my spirit. Like that my mental health, I am able to control it a little more. But the past 3 weeks, something happened at work that kind of like left my nervous system shot. Like to the point that the other day I was waiting for a parking space and a guy yelled at me and I like started sobbing hysterically because my nervous system is so shot. And on Sunday, I had to go do this show that I'm doing that I hate. Like I hate doing it, but I have to. And I was sitting in the car and my anxiety was like I'm shaking because I know that I have to go down and do this show and it's this whole thing. And I told myself, okay, you get to do what you love. You get to go now, put on a costume and become this character and be this character. I know that you're anxious. I know that your nervous system is fucking shot. But for the next 2 hours, you get to pretend to be this totally different person. And that calmed me down a little bit. But I guess I'm saying this because what do you tell yourself when you feel that, okay, today is a little harder than yesterday? And you still have your same routine. You still find yourself doing the thing that you did yesterday and you felt good and you're doing it today, but today
just doesn't feel that great.
Doesn't feel that great.
I think I really just remind myself, I go back to the place that I was in and I'm like, for one, if I made it through that, I can make it through one day of not feeling my best. And two, I want to be better more than I want to end up where I was. And that for me is enough to be like, okay, you're having a bad day. That's fine. I'll tell my boyfriend the same thing. You know, I'm just having a really bad day today. I just need to do what I need to do. Come home, go to bed. I'm going to wake up tomorrow. Clean slate. Today never happens. But I will tell myself like and I think to anyone that might be going through something, it's like, you have to want to come out of it more than you want to sulk in it and more than you want to just, not that you want to, but like you have to want to get out of it. Nobody can want that for you. Like my favorite thing, I say it all the time and in so many different things, like you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. You like your support system, your friends, your family, your therapist, your psychiatrist, whoever supports you in your life, spouses, whatever, they can be there for you. But they cannot help you if you don't help yourself. They will be there to pick you up if you have that one bad day. But if you're just sitting there doing nothing to help yourself and then going to everyone and saying, oh my God, but I need help, but I'm depressed. Then when you get the reaction out of people that isn't the nicest, it's not because, oh, there she goes again with her mental health. It's because they're sick of seeing you allow yourself to go through that. And they're like, if she doesn't want to help herself, how can I help her? You know what I mean? And that's where I say, like, you do come to the realization, like, nobody is coming to save you. Your mental health is your responsibility. You can't put that on a spouse, on a partner, on, you know, a friend, on anything. Like, you have to take ownership of it. And it's hard.
Yeah.
It's extremely difficult to get through something like that. It's extremely difficult to pull yourself out of something like that. But it is what it is.
And it's okay to ask for help.
Yes. And and I think that's why we sit here, and it's like, I want to make it known that like, you can talk about this. Like, this is not, and if you have friends that don't let you, you need better
new
friends.
Yeah.
You know
like
what I mean?
100%.
Like, you should be able to talk about these things, and you should be able, whether it's a friend, a therapist, a spouse, whoever it is, like, it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to feel it. And it's okay to make a decision for whatever you feel is best on how to handle it.
And just because, you know, brain chemistry is off and things are off and you're not feeling like yourself doesn't make you crazy. I feel like we put that of like, well, I don't want to be in that category. And it's not. Life is hard.
Yeah. But it's hard for everybody.
Life is hard for everyone. Like everyone is struggling with something.
Yeah.
And I think if us as a society realize that like, oh shit, if I'm going through shit, the person that I'm talking to is probably going through shit. Let me have a little more grace when it comes to it.
Yeah.
And I think having grace with mental health and like opening the conversation and knowing that it's just not about depression and anxiety.
But you know what I always say, what's funny is that it's not only about having grace for people with mental health, it's about having grace for humans. Because I feel that if you have grace for people and you just treat people with kindness and you just treat people the way you want to be treated, you're not even considering whether or not they have a mental health thing.
Right.
You're just treating them like a human.
Yeah.
You're saying, okay, I'm going to treat you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's just natural. So it's like, if you just treat people with respect and with kindness, and you know what? There are some people that are assholes, and that's life. And you know what? I'm praying for you. Have a nice day.
Yeah.
And move on. You know what I mean?
But you never know what, like, I'm telling you, that guy, like, I remember sitting after he, like, passed me and, like, he cursed me out, beeped at me like crazy. I remember sitting there crying, and I remember thinking to myself, I hope he has a good day.
Yeah.
Because I'm not having a good day, and like this didn't help my day. But I hope whatever he's going through, because apparently he's going through something, he has a great day and he's like fine with it. And I think if you give people grace all around, you just never know the battle that someone's going through. Yeah. And you never know that your nasty like answer or your bad response, that could be like the thing that like
just sends them off the edge.
Sets them off the edge. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think also like I'm a person of faith, and you know, God and prayer are a big part of my life. And I always whenever I do like pray, I'm like, I just pray that like people are just nicer to each other, and people are just kinder and more understanding, and you know, that we have more peace and grace for people. And even in the days, because I mean, I'm the queen of not having any patience, and it's something I've had to learn. Like people, oh my God.
Let me tell you, mental health, if it's gonna teach you something, it's gonna patience.
Yeah.
Oh my
and
gosh.
I like when patience is a virtue, I'm like, shut the fuck up. I'm like, shut up. I don't want to hear it. And I think it does really teach you how to be patient and how to be like, you know, take a second. You know, I have bad days. I have days where I'm like, damn, I wouldn't want to have dealt with me yesterday because I was in a horrible mood.
Right.
But I've learned to tell people, hey, you know what? I'm having a really bad day today. Just stay out of my way.
No, I'm very vocal about it. Like, I'm very vocal of like, hey, just so you're aware, my anxiety is on another level today. So I might be a little more snappy than usual. It has nothing to do with you and everything.
Yeah.
To do with me.
And I think as like my final thing that I would say is mainly that going through these things doesn't give you an excuse to be a shitty
asshole.
human.
Yeah.
Going through depression and anxiety, whatever mental health thing that you're dealing with, even if it's not mental health associated, going through a hard time in your life is not a get out of jail free card
100%.
to treat people wrong, to be an ass, to any of those things.
Right.
Because like we just said, life is hard for everyone. I might be dealing with a mental health issue. Someone else might have a family member with cancer.
Right.
Someone might be dealing with cancer and somebody else might have gotten into a car accident, lost. You don't know what it is in every capacity. And I don't think that we should measure it by like, oh, well, my problem is more important than your problem. Like we all
not a
have
competition.
problems. No,
Yeah.
we all have problems. And it's like we say, like, give yourself grace and give other people grace. And if you're not giving people grace, how are they going to return that to you?
Yeah.
They're not, because it's like you don't give anyone a second when they need it. So why should now all of a sudden, you know what I mean? So I think just overall, like the mental health conversation and like my biggest thing that I would tell people is just like, it's okay to talk about it.
Yeah.
It's okay to go through it. It's normal. So many more, like you say, like I think the more you get into talking about it, you realize like, oh my God, I think we're all kind of kooky. If you ask me, if you ask me, like we all have our own set of mental health issues.
100%.
Like, to some capacity.
100%. And the people who don't deal with mental health, how does it feel?
Bless you. How does it feel to be God's favorite?
God's favorite. No, honestly, it's funny because, you know, the God gives his strongest.
Oh my God.
His biggest, what is it? His biggest
my favorite
battles to his strongest soldiers. And I remember in the ending of last year, I was just like, every now and then, like, I grew up Catholic, you know, I have my own relationship with God and the universe. And every now and then I'm just like, hey, next year, let's tone back a little bit. I'm strong, but like, you've seen how strong I am already. Like, I don't gotta prove another year. Like, this year, give me like the like princess in distress, like like role. Like, I don't want to be your strongest soldier this year.
My favorite reel and like TikTok was the one that is like the guy praying and he's like, I just want to make sure that God does not have me on his strongest soldiers list for 2025. And I'm like, that's literally me. I'm like, me. Please, I did my trials and tribulations this year. I need like a year break, and then maybe you can give me a couple more like in a year from now. But this year, please. But I think that going through all these things, it like I said, it shows you that like if I can get through that, I can get through anything. So it almost makes the problems that you're gonna face like my mentality now is like, if I can get through that, you know what, God, try me. Try me. Send me problems so that I can show you that's nothing compared to what I've been through already.
100%.
And it gives you that sense of confidence that like it almost makes you better equipped to deal with adversity.
I like to say, maybe it's just me because I deal with mental health, but I like to say people who deal with mental health, it's like a superpower.
Yeah.
There's things that you have to get through yourself. And listen, getting through the dark days when you feel like there's no light in sight, it is hard. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think anyone can ever explain it unless you go through it, that those dark days are dark. And you think, oh my God, I'm never gonna fucking see the light at the end of the tunnel. So like when you do see the light and you're like, okay, it's there, it's there.
Yeah.
But it makes you appreciate like, oh shit, I got through that.
Yeah, you can find it. So you're like, it doesn't matter what I face, there's going to be a solution to this. Yeah. My mother-in-law always says, the only problem that cannot be solved is death. She always tells me that. She's like, the only thing in this life that you cannot solve is death. Everything else has a solution.
Yeah.
Everything. And I'm like, you know what? You're right.
You're right.
And she'll tell me that all the time. Financial problems, there's a solution. Health issues, medication. The only thing that you cannot solve is death. And when it's your time, it's your time. And that's it.
It's true. It's true. I want to end the pod asking, I didn't ask Betty this question, but we talked about mental health has taught us a lot of things. But if there's one thing that mental health and your journey with mental health has taught you, what would that be?
That's a hard question. I feel like I've learned so many things.
Yeah.
I'm like, if my journey has taught me anything.
Just mental health, like your journey with mental health and just mental health in general.
I would say that ironically, it's not like the best thing, but I would say that it just goes to show you again that like I can do hard things and like I can deal with adversity and like all the time that I spent getting mentally stronger and investing in myself and doing personal development and doing all these things, like it came through when I needed it the most. And to continue doing those things, to continue taking care of yourself mentally, physically, emotionally through all the seasons of your life.
Yeah.
I think if I had to hone in on it, it would be that. Do not stop taking care of yourself mentally, physically, or emotionally, no matter what season you are in.
Yeah.
When you're in a bad season, continue to take care of yourself. When you're thriving, because I think when we're thriving, we're like, you know what? I'm doing great. I don't need therapy.
Yeah.
I'm doing great. I don't need to meditate. I'm doing great. And it's like, we shouldn't just, the same thing. I mean, again, I know not everybody's religious, but it's like looking for God. Like, I'm like, you shouldn't only be going to church when you need it.
Yeah.
You should be going, or even if you don't go to church, you should be praying, looking for God all the time, not just in your darkest moments. So I think the same thing applies with taking care of yourself. Like, make taking care of yourself a job. Prioritize yourself has been my biggest thing. And that's why I tell you, like, I tell my friends all the time, and I'm like, this year in 2025, I'm like, anybody or anything negative, anything remotely negative, I'm just like, I'm praying for you. Yeah. That's my response to everything. I'm praying for you. That's it. Go with God.
Yeah. And that's
Have a nice day.
I love it. Thank you for being on here.
Thanks for having me.
No, thank you. And thank you for sharing your story. And I hope that what people take from this episode is like, never be afraid to talk about the things that you are going through.
Yeah.
Especially if you know that maybe that your story can affect just one person. And now that one person can be like, oh shit, this person's talking about it. She looks like she has such a great life on Instagram. That's not real life. Like, people deal with shit, and it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to be vocal, and
it's still a great life. It's just a hard time.
Right. Like, and that's the whole thing.
Yeah. It's still a great life. 'Cause people are like, oh, you're showing this life on, but it's still a great life.
Like, I love my life. I love my life, even though, yes, I do deal with my mental health and I do deal with things, but like, that's what makes my life different from somebody else. Yeah. And that's what makes the things that I look forward to in life different. Yeah. And I think that's okay. Everyone's life is different. Everyone's journey with mental health is totally different. But if we can all come together and support each other through each season, I think that's what life is all about.
Yeah. Agreed.
Thank you for sharing your beautiful life with us, your story. You're just...
Thank you.
Thank you for
having me.
Thanks. Yay! Wasn't that scary, was it?
It wasn't.
You see?
When you're a yapper, though, I feel like it's not too scary.
I know.